Let me start with this. Whenever I think about heaven, it makes me depressed. I'd rather just cease to exist when I die. I can't stand the thought of that endless tedium. To float around in the clouds with nothing to do but strum a harp. It's all so terribly boring. Heaven doesn't sound much better than hell. I'd rather be annihilated, exterminated, than spend eternity in a place like that. Well, those are the words, believe it or not, and I hope it's very hard to believe. They're the words of a pastor, a Christian pastor. They're recorded by Randy Alcorn in his excellent book on heaven, which is simply called Heaven. And Alcorn then asks this question: where did this Bible-believing, seminary-educated pastor get such a view of heaven? Such an awful view of heaven. And yet I do wonder if it's not a million miles away from the way a lot of people think about heaven. I wonder how you think about heaven. Does it excite you? Does it set your imagination on fire? Maybe not. Do you think of heaven as a kind of unreal, ghostly, wispy, misty, airy-fairy kind of place with little to do and endless boredom? Like the cartoon of a man sitting on a cloud thinking, he's obviously in heaven, and he's thinking, I wish I brought a magazine. I think a lot of Christians are not so sure what they feel about heaven, and many Christians certainly don't get very excited about heaven or the resurrection or the future. Well, then we may need a good dose of Romans 8 for a bigger and better, a much bigger and much better view or vision of heaven. Because Paul says, I consider, verse 18 there, that our present sufferings are not worthy with the glory, that is, this is the future glory, heaven if you like, or new creation. We're going to see more about that. I consider that they're not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us, in lots of versions to us, but I think it's both to us and in us. In Apostle Paul's mind then, we see that the glory to come is obviously so good, so mouth-watering, so attractive, so appealing, it can even make terrible suffering seem like nothing in comparison. Paul must have had a view or a vision of the future that was very, very good. I consider, wrote Paul, and that word means I calculate, I reckon, I reason. It's the word from which we get our word logic, logizomai, and he has thought this through carefully. And he's weighed this up in his mind. That new mind of the Spirit, there's good rational thinking going on here. I calculate, this is my conclusion, that all of the things I've been through, and we're going to see in a moment they were pretty severe, are worth nothing compared to what is coming to me through Jesus Christ.